Thank you very much for joining us again on Journalists Hangout. I am Kemi Folau Adeyemo. Well, today on the Tuesday edition of the program, INEC Chairman thanks stakeholders on the successful Ondo election, says the Commission will now focus on Ondo. Plus, the Central Bank of Nigeria decries speculation as naira plunges, which is also, exchanging for 465 naira to the dollar. And later on the program, Borno State Governor Zulum mourns Nigerian Army colonel killed by Boko Haram. Justice ECOWAS Chair says terrorist groups exploiting West Africa's endemic poverty. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju and Sam Ibemere will join us via Skype. If you're ready, Journalists Hangout starts now. We'll start the program today on a lighter note by paying tributes to two prominent Nigerians who added a year. Wife of the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who clocked 60. We join other well-meaning Nigerians to say congratulations to Senator Tinubu. Let's share the video of the celebration by her husband with you.
Just thankful because most of my friends, I said, do the same wherever you are. Just, take food to other people, and that's what I did, celebrated with less privileged homes within my district. So they too are having their own parties and, and I think I'm glad.
We mark the day with all serious soberness for the people, so that will be a good example for our legacy to be great, be in good health, and continue to enjoy the fruit of our labor. Children in good health, grandchildren in good health, me too, in good health.
More birthday greetings now, this time coming the way of former governor of Imo State, Senator Rochas Okorocha, who clocked 58. He clocks 58 today, and President Muhammadu Buhari, as well as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and APC National Leader Bola Tinubu have joined other prominent Nigerians to greet him for all he's done for humanity. Interestingly, both Senators Oluremi Tinubu and Okorocha are philanthropists with great passion for giving. Here is a congratulatory video message from former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to Senator Okorocha.
Senator Rochas, this is your good friend Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. As you celebrate your 58th birthday anniversary, I congratulate you and once again commend you for the exceptional role you continue to play in the education of Africa's children. It would be a blessing to visit them again and to have the opportunity to talk to you about the things we are doing to help make the world a more peaceful and better place. Have a happy, happy birthday.
Indeed. Now, former president of Liberia there congratulated Senator Okorocha on his 50th birthday. Let me bring in our guests at this time now with their laudable contributions, no doubt. BKO here in the studio and Sam Ibemere, who is joining us via Skype. Good evening to you both. BKO, looking at the quality of congratulations to these two eminent personalities, what are your thoughts?
They thoroughly deserve the plaudits that they have got on the occasion of their birthday or birthdays. Senator Oluremi Tinubu is reputed for her kindness, and the people of Lagos Island constitutes part of his his constituency. They are grateful for what she has done for Lagos Central. Now, coming to Okorocha, he has built schools for the orphans, not just in Nigeria, but outside of our country. And that's why the former president of Liberia had kind words for him on his birthday. You can see the way the president described him as someone who is detribalized and someone with a large heart. So it says so much. If you spend so much money taking care of the needy, people without parents, there's no way that the world will forget you. We all have our feelings, but I think he's done well in the area of philanthropy, and he's done this for as long as I've known him.
Absolutely. A quick one from you, Sam, as of course, you know, you begin your remarks on the program today. Senator Tinubu and her colleague, Senator Okorocha, indeed renowned for their large hearts.
60 years is indeed, you know, a great number, and it's really nice and proper. The drums have been rolled out for Senator Tinubu, who, you know, I consider just a great woman, but also a great politician who has touched several lives, not just in Lagos, but across the country. And for my former state governor, Rochas Okorocha, I would like to join other well-meaning Nigerians across the country and indeed the world, you know, to congratulate him on his 50th birthday.
Right. Well, from all of us here, a very happy birthday. Senator Oluremi celebrated yesterday, but of course, celebrations and the greetings are pouring in. We say a very big happy birthday to Senator Tinubu and Senator Rochas Okorocha. Well, we'll talk more now about other issues here on the program right after the break. Don't go away. You're watching Journalists Hangout on TVC News. Well, the Edo election has come and gone. Reactions continue to trail the first governorship election after the easing of the coronavirus-induced lockdown. The Independent National Electoral Commission's chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, has now commended all those who participated in the governorship election and made it a success, in his words. He is now challenging INEC officials and other participants in elections not to make this success recorded during the Edo election a coincidence, but the standard of conducting elections in Nigeria. BKO, first of all, how do you weigh the successes reported and attributed to INEC on Saturday?
Yeah, the best way to assess the success of an election is to ask yourself if it reflects, first and foremost, if it reflects the wishes of the electorate. There can be no doubt in the fact that the Edo people have had their wishes granted in form of this election. They wanted Governor Obaseki to remain in office, and they spoke through their votes, and their votes counted. They moved out in large numbers, defended their votes. At the end of the day, their votes counted. We've had elections in our country where people's votes never counted, where the barrel of the gun prevailed over the desires of the electorate. But that's not what we had in Edo State. And despite the fears earlier expressed that it was going to be petals of blood, it was going to be characterized by violence, that was not what we saw. So you've got to be happy with the way the election went, because it's not every time that we have elections that will go along with the wishes of the people. Many times after elections, you see people complaining about the fact that lives were lost in the course of the election, about the fact that ballot boxes were being snatched here and there, about the fact that women barricaded collation centers just so that security agencies would not go and substitute the results. We saw that in 2019. Women in Rivers State, they barricaded the collation center. That no, our votes will count. We will not allow you to substitute the result. But thankfully, that didn't happen in the case of the Edo election. And INEC also, partly because it was an off-season election, in terms of logistics, INEC did well. Ballot materials got to polling centers in good time, because it's also one way of rigging elections. When you starve certain polling stations of ballot materials, then it becomes a problem. The people may not be able to express their wishes through the instrumentality of the ballot box. So generally, this was a good election, and the better candidate prevailed. Better because that was the candidate that the people wanted. That's what we want to see. That's what I've always fought for. Because election rigging, in my words, is barbarism. So thank God Edo didn't give us that level of barbarism.
Let me compare your thoughts now with Sami Bemiriri. What are you reading? Even though NGOs, observers came out with slightly divergent, reports on the aftermath of the Edo election, there were some complaints, but by and large, they gave INEC a pass mark.
Yes, we can't have an election that is perfect. We cannot. So we need to properly situate the Edo polls. I would score the integrity of the election, global elections, very, very high. I am very convinced that it was free, fair, and credible, and that people of Edo State, made the choice of the individual that they wanted to govern them for the next 4 years. I also believe that the poll, against every prediction, turned out to be an opportunity for the electoral umpire, INEC, to right some of the wrongs that it had committed or that had characterized the elections in Kogi and Bayelsa State. But having said that, I think that the celebrations should be, subdued. Like Jide rightly said, this, was an off-season election, and I think that the authorities had all the opportunity to consolidate, their preparations in terms of logistics, in terms of security, in terms of mobilization of all stakeholders. And I think that accounts largely for the success of the Edo polls. So I think that even as we celebrate, the celebrations should be subdued. We should be looking at the forthcoming Ondo polls. We should be looking at, other elections where we have more than one state, involved. There and then we can begin to say, well done, to INEC, for a job well done. But for now, they can afford the bragging right because in terms of performance, I think it was, a fairly tidy performance, on their part. But there are lots of lessons to take away from this.
Absolutely. Well, INEC has even also said, of course, not only at Ondo, but there are 11 other elections, by-elections, to hold across the country. But then intimidation, harassment of observers, violence, disruption, likely disenfranchisement of voters, these and more were listed out as areas where INEC and other stakeholders should concentrate on. We can pick voter apathy that was also, reported on Saturday. Out of about 2.2 million, 1.7 PVCs were collected, but only about 25% of these voters, turned out on Saturday.
Yes, that's a problem. And I believe that when the people are truly convinced that their votes will count, if we have a succession of credible elections, the people's faith in the system will grow. Because for some people, they will say, oh, the results had been written. Let's not go and waste our time on the queue. Yes. And I also believe that as we move on and as we continue to reform our electoral process, the process will become less cumbersome to the point that people don't have to stay in the rain just waiting to be to vote and all that. We have to continue to work at our electoral processes so that we can get to the point when people will be happy to vote. I don't think that we have reached that point. Elections ought not to be a form of warfare. It should be a celebration of democracy, with people coming out to exercise their franchise, exercise the power that they have over the people that they put in government. So I want to believe that, yes, we recorded some level of success with Edo, but it's an off-season election. The true test will come when we have general election. So can we achieve the same level of success in terms of movement of logistics and all that, in terms of deployment of electoral materials, and ensure that voting begins in good time? That doesn't always happen. Sometimes as late as 3 or 4 p.m., people have not received their electoral materials at some polling centers. So I want to believe that we'll continue to get better. And that is what INEC should work hard about. I also want to advise INEC that where you have an off-season election, you don't need to use these SPOs. The regular SPOs, the ones we use now, are largely, we use university lecturers as returning officers. We use staff of government agencies as collation officers and the rest. Where it is an off-season election, nothing stops INEC from using its own permanent staff, move them from different centers close to the place where the election is taking place. You can get some of your staff from Lagos State, from Ogun State, and say, okay, you are going to be working with us during the Edo election. Because these SPOs that I'm talking about, because they are not staff of INEC, they are so easily used to sabotage the process. A lot of them will disappear and then suddenly emerge with fictitious results. So INEC should look at that. Because I'm not also convinced that, yes, that we've always succeeded in, with using those lecturers. Some of them are dubious. In fact, in Akwa Ibom, some of them are going to be put on trial now because they rigged the election. So this is the thing. But INEC staff, knowing that their future will be jeopardized if they get involved, those INEC staff will be far more reliable than people that are brought from different government agencies and all that, that really do not see themselves as responsible to INEC.
Absolutely. Sam, it's also a period of reflection, politically, looking at the surprise defeat, surprise, of course, being relative, so to speak now, but looking at Malabuni, the chairman of the APC Caretaker Committee, has, of course, used the words that BKO just used here, saying elections shouldn't be warfare, and for the party, it's time for the party to take stock and make sure that what happens in Edo doesn't happen in Ondo.
Yes, I think that the outcome of the Edo polls is, like I said, one from which we can draw, a lot of lessons from. One clear signal that we get is that our election shouldn't be war. We should be very magnanimous, when we win, our elections. I still, hear a lot of rhetorics out there, from those who are celebrating, victory. So it's a good thing to know that, in spite of the, earlier concerns, coming from the government, that the party at the national level, has come out to, congratulate, the eventual winner. Yeah. Sadly, we are yet to hear from the man who was defeated, and we think that he should do the right thing, acknowledge, the outcome of that election, which many, consider free, fair, and credible. So, for me, they are indeed very clear. We can have very credible elections in our country if all stakeholders decide, that it will be so. But more importantly, I'd like to add that even as Mr. President has received a lot of accolade in terms of the way he has managed, this particular election, it is important that we should also be concerned about the future. Mm-hmm. There have been talks about, the Electoral Act that is yet to be signed into law. We do believe, and I think a lot of people out there believe that with that act signed into law, that the country would witness even more credible elections, in the years ahead. So we would like to encourage those, who have earned victory, to be magnanimous and ensure that all stakeholders, are given a sense of belonging. Obaseki is the governor of Edo State and not the governor of PDP. So he should, realize that and ensure that every citizen, of the state, is made to understand and believe that they will be carried along in the new administration.
All right, Sam. Let me also compare notes now with BKO on the APC's position, on President Buhari's position, especially looking at what Mr. Buni said now, saying that they would try to correct the problems that, worked against the party and its candidate. Yes,
if they want the APC to still be alive post-2023, they have to fix the crisis in their party. We warned them before the 2019 election. As early as 2016, I began to tell them about the crisis in Adamawa State. They didn't listen. They didn't solve the problem and they lost the state. So I was sufficiently convinced that the crisis will consume the party in Adamawa State, and I predicted 2 times that the APC will be defeated by the PDP. And it happened because the crisis on ground was so much. Now, we can see that they still have all kinds of problems. They are pulling in different directions. Some governors are fighting one another and all that. The leadership of the party must find a way to come together and solve some of those problems. If we don't solve the problems, then the days of APC are numbered. I mean, there's no... PDP began like this, and we saw what happened in 2015. They were defeated. So if they still continue to have this head in the clouds attitude that, no, we are the ruling party, nothing will happen, there are so many reasons why they should be worried. Even the economic climate has already made many Nigerians to be angry. So allied with the crisis, the internal crisis that you have. The empower people that have been told to go home, they are angry, they are ready to vote for the opposition. So the crisis that you have, solve the problem. When you solve the problem, you give yourself a good chance. I've always said that you don't go to war with a divided house. They went to war in Edo with a divided house. We can see the outcome. They went to war in Sokoto with a divided house. We saw the outcome. They went to war with a divided house in Adamawa. We saw the outcome. They went to war with a divided house in Bauchi. We saw the outcome. They went to war with a divided house in Oyo State. We saw the outcome. So they just need to fix the problems that they have. Otherwise, the PDP that has claimed far more states than we imagined that they could claim from the APC, they are now in a position of strength to truly challenge the APC.
All right, we'll rest our discussion on this note now for today. Of course, definitely we'll come back to pursue further developments, talking about elections. But now let's talk economy. The value of the naira has continued to plunge, bringing it to 465 naira to a dollar as of Monday. This from 460 naira as of last Thursday. The Central Bank of Nigeria, in its report on Monday, says declining export receipts from oil as well as shady deals by bureau de change operators, amongst other challenges of the COVID-19 era, will further crash the naira. Sam, what are your thoughts on this?
Again, like I said, we need to put things in proper context. What we see playing out is basically, a reflection of fundamentals that you find, within the economy. One thing we must appreciate is that Nigeria is basically a member of the global economic order. So whatever happens out there is bound to affect us. We all know that we have had contractions, all over the place. That has affected the supply chain, across the globe. Our oil is, not getting the kind of attention it used to get. So there's been a tremendous decline in receipts. So what you find, at play is basically the forces of demand and supply, pulling out the naira. If we had enough, dollar, if we're earning enough dollar, we wouldn't, find ourselves, where we are. So basically, it's scarce, and then you have a lot of naira chasing after the dollar. The CBN has done quite a lot in terms of trying to defend the naira, but for how long, will you be able to do that? I think that the fundamentals are very clear before, every, discerning Nigerian who understands the way the economy plays. We can't, continue to defend the naira the way we have done. I think that we need to allow things to play out, because at some point, I believe that things, would even out. But beyond that, I think that the government also needs to pursue very aggressively some of the policies, that it has initiated, especially in terms of, curbing foreign imports,
Absolutely.
And our taste for things that are foreign. So we want to see strict adherence to some of these. I think that the leadership of this country has a lot of role to play in that regard. They should lead by example, and they must lead by example, because when you tell Nigerians that you really don't care, that you can throw money at anything, by way of your personal expenditures at that level, people just don't take you serious. So there is great need, for the leadership to, show that it is ready to, implement or execute, these policies, starting from the top, not just asking Nigerians to make sacrifices. Our leaders must make sacrifices in terms of their taste. So for me, what is playing out is basically, it's unfortunate, but that is the way the economy plays.
All right.
Forces of demand and supply at play.
Well, Sam, BKO, the CBN's position is that speculators are solely behind this. But then on the side of BDCs generally, they had predicted that as soon as sales of Forex to BDCs resume, we wouldn't be having, the naira at such a weak position as it is now.
I don't think the CBN blames the bureau de change operators exclusively for the problem that we have. They blamed them as part of the energizers of the problem. the truth is, it is true that broad exchange operators are involved in speculation. It is that speculation that worries the CBN. Broad exchange operators have two main sources of forex, through the CBN and through foreign remittances. They go to the CBN, get the dollar at the subsidized rate, and then take it to the black market so that they can make huge gains. Poor regulatory framework ensures that the documentations that they need to do to ensure that, okay, you've taken this chunk of dollar, this is what you want to do with it, to ensure that they are monitored and that it goes straight to the end user. It's not there. They are able to bypass the regulators and then take the dollars that they've taken from the CBN at subsidized rate to the black market to go and make much more money. Recently, I think a few weeks back, the CBN called the broad exchange operator and told them, look, we needed to do something about our stock of dollars in the foreign exchange market so that the scarcity won't cause the naira to slide. They then provided dollars for broad exchange operators so that we can have enough liquidity. But the CBN has not been able to sustain that initiative. So if they had been able to sustain the initiative, perhaps the naira won't be slide, because at that time, some people panicked. Some people had dollars and kept it under their portmanteaus. They panicked and then decided to sell. So the price appreciated. You know, I mean, the exchange rate appreciated. And then we were thinking, okay, we'll find a solution to the instability in the market. But the CBN could not sustain that. So what we now have is a situation in which our inability to earn enough from oil, from the global sale of oil, and the fact that we don't have other sources by which we can earn sufficient foreign exchange has now put us in the position that we find ourselves now. Because we must grow our stock of dollars. If we do not grow our stock of dollars, this problem will not end. We must instill confidence in our economy so that people can come to our country, invest in our country. It's a function of international trade. If you have trade deficit, it will reflect in the quality, the value of your currency. It will reflect. It's a balance of trade thing. So we have a situation in which we rely so much on petrodollar. Absolutely. And when the price slides in the international market, it's going to affect our capacity to earn forex.
And of course, not to, forgetting, the current state of Nigeria's, foreign reserves. But, even looking further about this allegation of speculators behind the position of the naira presently, the CBN is also saying that let's work, the situation to a point where the naira will be, the economy will, guide the naira, and we can say, okay, this is how the naira is, and this is because it's linked now to the situation, current realities of the economy. What are your thoughts in this regard, especially with allegations further that the speculators are hoping for a devaluation of the naira?
Like I said earlier, the way the economy plays is such that you can't fix, the value of your currency, by fiat. It's going to be very difficult. You could write that in the short term, but in the very long run, it's going to be very difficult. Like I said, it's a function of supply and demand. It is even worsened by the fact, just like Jide said, poor regulatory issues. And then in our country, we have multiple exchange windows. So people basically take advantage, of the system, pick very cheap forex, go to the market, and take advantage of the system. So there is a whole lot of work, to be done in terms of regulation and in terms of, efforts to diversify the economy. You can't continue to rely on, we cannot continue to rely on oil alone. We also need to be able to, encourage Nigerians who are in the diaspora to bring money home, because a lot of money comes in from the outside. So we need a lot of discipline in terms of the regulatory framework, and that point cannot be overemphasized. In the black market, area, sadly, we have come to live with it. The guys are basically riding roughshod, and it has not been helped by the fact that there are a lot of inefficiencies there, and there's a lot of corruption in the system. So you ask, how come can we sustain the multiple exchange window? How are we sure that the system can truly run in a manner that you would trust that whoever gets money will put it into the use for which it has been demanded. We have had several cases, unresolved cases for that matter, where people go get forex, tell us they want to import a certain item, and end up shipping the money abroad. Those cases are there. Only very recently, and I wouldn't want to mention names, very high, prominent individuals who run very visible businesses out there, were asked to come and explain, certain things about the way they have moved, forex, within and outside the country. So these are issues. There is a lot of work to be done. The CBN, the CBN governor has done quite a lot in terms of trying to stabilize, the naira. But there is little or nothing that he can do, because if you don't have enough, you can't have the kind of stability that we're asking for in the system.
Right. Well, a quick point also on the issue of, what the CBN is also believing in, that it will get, and it has already started the steps of the NFIU and other investigative agencies now tightening the noose around the necks of what they call economic saboteurs in this light of people who are ruining the naira through their actions. What do you think, BKO?
We've got to solve the problem, the big problem. The elephant in the room is our inability to get enough stock of dollars. If we have enough, this wouldn't be happening. We have a long walk to exchange rate stability in our country. You look at some of the countries around us, they don't have this problem. Ghana, even South Africa, they don't have this problem. So we have a long walk. And even COVID-19 has affected remittances, foreign remittances. That's a fact, because over there too, they faced all kinds of problems. Some of them have lost their jobs. So all of these things impact on the quantum of dollars available to be traded in. And the CBN knows that if it does not find a way to fund even the black market, things will get worse, because the black market is the closest to reality. The true value of your currency, it is the black market that actually determines it. So if we fail to fund the BDC operators who are players in that black market, they are big players in that black market, things will get worse and the naira will further slide. So the CBN is blackmailed, in inverted commas, to continue to fund these guys. Yet a lot of them, as we have seen over the years, are just speculators waiting for the currency to further slide, so that they can make huge gains. So this is the situation that we find ourselves. We have to come up with the right laws. If you go to South Africa, you cannot exchange currency by the roadside. You've got to go to a bureau de change. They will take your passport, and then they have
saying strict regulation of the market.
Yes, but we don't do that here. Anybody can change the currency. At the back of your house, you can see somebody who's ready to change the currency for you. How come they don't do that in other places? They make you submit your passport. Your picture is taken before that transaction can happen. We need to get to that point one day.
When the market will be thoroughly sanitized. Well, gentlemen, let's take a breather now. And still to come, the governor of Borno State, that's Governor Zulum, is mourning at this time, and that's over the Nigerian army colonel killed by Boko Haram. This, as ECOWAS Chair says, terrorist groups are exploiting West Africa's endemic poverty. Stay with us. You're watching Journalist Hangout on TVC News. Well, Governor of Borno State, Babajide Zulum, is mourning the killing of Army Colonel Bako, who lost his life while fighting Boko Haram insurgents in Damboa, the southern part of the state. The governor stated in his statement, of course, commended Colonel Bako's efforts in combating the insurgents, eventually leading to the loss of his life. The governor praised the supreme sacrifices paid by Colonel Bako and other heroes like him shall not be in vain. Indeed, Sam, a sad one. Colonel Bako was leading his men at around the Damboa, and then they came upon an ambush. Sadly, he didn't make it.
Yes, indeed, it's a very sad development, and I'd like to commiserate with the family of Colonel Bako, who was killed at the war front. I also like to commiserate with the Nigerian Military High Command, and indeed the entire country. We have continued to lose some of our finest officers, and that is a very clear signal that this war is raging. And for Governor Zulum, a man I greatly admire, who has done so much, to ensure that peace, reigns and returns, to the communities in Borno State. This is one loss, too many. Permit me to quickly read what he said about Colonel Bako. He said, "It was public knowledge that I liked late Colonel Bako, and so did many people. Bako was a true soldier who inspired his troops and led them to front lines with exceptional courage that was clearly out of pure patriotism." It's not every time that you find, Governor Zulum, speaking so very highly, of individuals. All of us, recall that he has often had his brushes, with the military. He's a man who is never afraid to speak, truth, power. Nigerians have come to know him for that. So for him to have singled out Colonel Bako as one who is very highly patriotic and one who is very close to him, it says a lot, about the late Bako's commitment, to the pursuit of Nigeria's security, and peace in the country. Like I said, it's difficult to prosecute, an asymmetric war where the enemy likes to take shots, at very soft targets. Sadly, the war is on.
Absolutely.
We've got to continue to fight, to protect, and defend our integrity. Our sovereignty.
Right.
As a country.
And
it's a sad loss.
Right, and Colonel Bako's, passing, or the personality of Colonel Bako, as well as the others that we have lost, while fighting and defending the country, also, reflects, the strong will of our soldiers, the fact that they even voluntarily, donated themselves, so to speak, to defending the country. How do you weigh in on this?
Yeah, it's a big sacrifice to leave your family and to put your life on the line for your country, to keep each and every one of us safe. We have sacrificed so many soldiers in this war. We have lost so many soldiers, including commanders. I remember in Metele, we lost Colonel Saliba from Kebbi State. It was painful. It was painful. You lose soldiers, but to lose the commander is an extremely painful thing. And I'm happy that Governor Zulum has taken the decision to build a house for Colonel Dairu Chiroma Bako, because he got information that he did not even have a house of his own, So he's going to build a house for him, and he has donated 20 million to his widow so that they can take care of the orphans. And I also heard that the army authorities have taken up the education of his children. It is important to take this kind of measures on behalf of the departed, because that will ginger some of them who are still on the front line. They will now realize that they are not forgotten, that even if they die in the course of the war, that their families will be looked after. That has always been concern that when soldiers die, within a short time they will chase their families out of the barracks and then they will be fending for themselves. No, we are happy that this is going to be different. And what has happened reinforces what we have always said, that the war is far from being won. In fact, we are seeing different dimensions to the war all the time. This Damboa road was where some of our soldiers were slaughtered recently. And it remains very dangerous. Maiduguri Damboa Biu road is probably the most dangerous highway in our country. So they've ambushed our troops so many times on that road, and they are not prepared to stop. Even the same weekend that they killed this officer, they also launched attacks in different parts of the state, including Kareto, including Magumeri. As I speak now, there is a need to protect travelers on the Maiduguri Monguno highway, because Boko Haram is carrying out ambushes on that road. Boko Haram is organizing illegal checkpoints where people are abducted and ransom will be demanded. If they don't pay, they behead them. So we need to further secure Borno State. If there's a need to put more troops in Borno State because it's an expansive area, we need to do that to keep our people safe.
Well, let's spare, we have barely, a minute or so now before we wrap up the show, but I also want us to quickly now look at the role or the intervention, so to speak, of ECOWAS, looking at their projections into the problem, this lingering Boko Haram problem. Now they're calling for a stronger regional approach. Sam, what do you make of that?
There is no better time to, demand, such initiative. Across the entire Sahel, the challenge of terrorism, is gripping the entire, ECOWAS region, especially in the Sahel area, starting from Mali down to Niger. A lot of instability, within the region, and I think that the best way that this issue can be handled is through a multilateral joint effort. Yeah. So this is the right time for Nigeria to lead. Mr. President is very well regarded within the region. He needs to continue to talk about a need to strengthen the regional body. And I think that what has been done in Mali is a good one. It's very clear signals that our leaders can come together and take measures that can defend the region from terrorism that is fast gripping the entire space.
Absolutely. Sam, quickly, BKO.
Yes, I think that we need to get our neighbors to help us a lot more. The multinational joint task force can do much better than it's doing if it is properly funded, if we get all the countries around us to jump in and assist with the strengthening of the multinational joint task force, because the way it is now, there's not enough support for that multinational joint task force. We have the Chadians, we need to bring them in, bring the Nigerians in, bring the Cameroonians in, because it's a war for everybody in that region. Boko Haram is an international terrorist group, so we need to mobilize them so that they can join us in crushing these guys once and for all.
Absolutely. Well, ECOWAS is also saying that $1 billion now will be earmarked over a course of a period of about 4 years now.
Yeah, we need to do that because they are also using the dollars at their disposal to recruit young people from these countries around us.
Right. So many concerns now on the spate of insurgency in the northeast, which has also spilled onto neighboring countries. That's our 7 for you on Journalist Hangout today. I appreciate sincerely now, our gentlemen, the contributors of the program today, BKO here and Sam Ibemere. Many thanks, gentlemen. You can join us tomorrow again for another episode of the program, and also watch the program on other platforms showing on the screen on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Send us your feedback to us at journalisthangout@tvcnews.tv. I'm Kemi Kolade-Otitoju. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.